From the gazebos, the eye is now led towards the final goal. On the way, Johnston created a piece of green architecture, planting aerial hedges to frame the sky-filled view, a style reminiscent of France. But it was a very different France that Johnston saw next. For Johnston, the call to arms came a second time with the coming of the First World War. This time, war drew him to the battlefields of the Somme. He was now a major in his cavalry regiment, the Northumberland Hussars. From regimental records, it is possible to have an insight into the role of Johnston's cavalry regiment. There was a hurried rush across the miry fields and through a wood filled with dead and wounded to the trenches, where the remnants of several regiments were collected. Here we remained several hours under heavy rifle and shell fire, unable to retaliate very effectively, owing to the poorness of the field of fire.
In the battles of Ypres, the Cavalry Corps on several occasions were used when the infantry were being pushed back to deploy very rapidly, dismounting from their horses, losing their horses and fighting as infantry in the front line.
Then came the crowning incident of the day. A line of Scots Guards suddenly rose to the order of "Come on, Scots Guards," echoed by Major Sidney's "Come on, Northumberland Hussars." And together Guards and Hussars charged against a swaying mass of grey figures and finally drove them over the hill. Our casualties, considering the severity of the fighting, were relatively light, but among the wounded were Major Johnston and Lieutenant Lang.
He was wounded in October 1914 at Ypres, and he came back to London to the King Edward VII Hospital for Officers.
When he returned to Hidcote, Lawrence Johnston used his convalescence to do yet more reading and completed his masterpiece of design, the Stilt Garden. The layout of pleached hornbeams harks back to the tranquility of a more peaceful France, where it is possible to relax and enjoy leisurely pursuits.
When you get into the middle of the stilts, it very much reflects a French courtyard, and it is reputed that Johnston and his guests would play boule on the matching rinks, and refreshments would have been served in the little gazebo on the Delft tiles.
In June 1916, Major Lawrence Johnston returned to active duty in France for the rest of the war, and at one stage had acted as temporary commanding officer of the Hussars. On returning home, he was known simply as the Major to many people, including his staff.